Hey guys, Jack here. Thanks for joining us on this very special episode of the BigJackFilms Reviews. And before we get started, I want to give a few thank yous and shout outs to people who helped make this episode possible. First of all, a very special thank you to Bernard Kyer. If you guys don't know, Bernard has done tons of work for us in the past, including the score to our King Kong remake, and because he's such a big fan of the movie Legend, he decided to do a few cover tracks based on the Tangerine Dream score. Link down below to his YouTube channel, as well as his other websites. And a big thank you to LUNACHI Bunnie. If you guys want to go check out her channel, link down below so you can go subscribe. She's a wonderful talent, and we'd love to see her get her up in the YouTube ranks, so go check her out and subscribe to her YouTube channel. Once again, a big thank you to our production cast and crew, and of course our supporters on Patreon. If you guys would like to support our channel, link down below. Just $1 or more will get you early access to all of our content, as well as other special features. Plus, if you donate $5 a month, you'll be able to request an opening night of your choosing. Not to mention funding all of our other projects. This episode was a lot of fun to work on and a huge effort to put together, so if you guys want to see more episodes like this, go support us there. Thank you all so much for watching, and enjoy the show. The following is a fan-based video review under fair use. Legend is owned by Universal Pictures, 20th Century Fox, William Hotsburg, and Ridley Scott. Please support the official release.
Hand it over. Mighty tender, that human flesh. I'll devour his heart, and I his eyeballs. Little boy has become a king.
Cannot be. Darkness was destroyed. I slayed him myself 40 years ago.
I am the Lord of Darkness. Return from the fabric of space and time in a new form. The mutation of space froze me through time as I floated for what seemed like an eternity. Until a warm presence approached me. A cloud of fire and smoke took over and offered me my revenge that I desired so much, and without hesitation. I allowed this form to consume me and reclaim my immortal soul. No longer did I need the blood and horns of the innocent. I have reached a power far beyond it, allow me to return my presence and claim eternal darkness. It will begin here, then another, until darkness rules the universe and beyond for eternity. Now darkness and evil shall share a new name. One that will rule all. Now, what such name shall we choose, boy?
What's up? It's BigJackFilms here, and welcome to another review. The Legend of Zelda. What can be said that hasn't been said? It's one of the greatest video game franchises of all time. The original game on the Nintendo Entertainment System, created by Shigeru Miyamoto in 1986, sparked a fantasy world of its own and is as popular as the likes of The Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, telling the amazing tales of the adventures of an elf boy named Link who obtains a magic sword and shield and goes on a quest to save Princess Zelda and the world of Hyrule with the power of the Triforce from the evil forces of the demon beast Ganon. This game sparked many others on every Nintendo console to date, from Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, Ocarina of Time on the N64, Wind Waker on the GameCube, Twilight Princess on the Wii, and now in recent years with the Nintendo Switch with the Skyrim-inspired Breath of the Wild. And from merchandise, cartoons, to games on the Philips CDI that inspired the YouTube poop genre,
my boy, this piece is what all true warriors strive for.
There's no doubt that this fantasy series won't be dying off anytime soon. And with a franchise so popular with gamers for over 30 years, you'd think, unlike the Super Mario Bros. Movie and with the rise of the fantasy genre in the 2000s, would have Nintendo consider making a feature-length motion picture about the adventures of Link. They did not. Well, that's not entirely true. In the late 2000s, after the success of TMNT, aka Turtles 4, animation company Imagi Studios made made a pitch to produce an animated Zelda movie in the same tone and vein of their Ninja Turtles sequel. However, no studios ever considered it, and the project was eventually shelved. Not to mention Imagi Studios going out of business due to the box office failure of the 2009 film Astro Boy. But one of the biggest April Fool's jokes of all time on the internet occurred around the same time on YouTube when a fan film trailer for a Legend of Zelda movie went viral until people saw it was a joke. But a lot of the fans saw potential of the game series being on par with Jackson's Rings in terms of quality. And with rumors still going on to this day with a Castlevania-inspired Netflix series and so on, it's unclear when the world of Hyrule will ever approach the motion picture screen. However, not many people know that actually there was a live-action Legend of Zelda movie. In fact, it was created by one of our most visionary directors in Hollywood. So, let's take a look at Ridley Scott's forgotten masterpiece of 80s fantasies with Legend.
Did somebody say Legend of Zelda?
I'm so sorry, folks. Every time someone brings up Zelda on my channel, Bradley has to jump into the scene because he's such an obsessed fan.
You bet on Zelda's sweet ass I'm a fan, and the Zelda movie is something I've always wanted.
Well, this movie kind of is, but technically it's not an actual Zelda film.
But you said Legend, and I was gonna finish it off with Legend of Zelda.
It's just called Legend, Brad. Plus, I want to review this damn thing on my own. So, I don't know, go play Wand of Gamelon or something for the 16-bit show.
But I already have my cosplay on.
I'm sorry, Bradley. The answer's no.
Please?
No.
Please?
No.
Please!
No!
Listen, Brad, I'm gonna review Legend, and you talk about Zelda, so skedoodle.
Fine. Yo, Curly, you wanna play some Majora's Mask High?
Fuck yeah, that dude! Let's go, Herb! I wasn't ready for this shit, man! Oh, thank God. Well, since it's the 35th anniversary this year and I only discovered it recently, let's see if the film holds up on par with other 80s fantasy films. This is Ridley Scott's masterpiece simply known as Legend. Much like most fairy tales, the movie takes place once upon a time.
Great opening, huh?
In an unnamed fairy tale kingdom with a princess named Lily, played by Mia Sara, who spends her time traveling the enchanted forest, then spending the life in a castle of a privileged princess. In her travels, her companion is a forest dweller dressed in Peter Pan's rags named Jack. Great name, played by pre-Top Gun superstar Tom Cruise. Or as I like to call him, Scientologist Link. I know, every critic gets one Scientologist joke. Who teaches Lily to speak to the animals in the forest. With those teeth, that's a laugh. And wishes to show her a special place in the realms of the forest, where a magical glade exists with the MacGuffin spirits of the world reside in two beautiful unicorns. However, the curious Lily wishes to be closer to the unicorns as she approaches them and tames one through song and ends up touching them, which is strictly forbidden, as she risks her immortal soul. However, Jack and Lily have been followed by the slithering Blix and his band of goblins to hunt the unicorns by order of the Lord of Darkness, for which they shoot the stallion with a poisoned dart and cut off the unicorn's horn to use its magic powers for the forces of evil. As the world turns to ice and becomes unbalanced, Lily promises to set everything right, but her and the last unicorn. I know, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. You know, I should really take a look at this movie sometime. By the way, this DVD is signed by Peter S. Beagle and Mia Farrow. Are captured by the goblins to Darkness's lair, as Jack must join an elf named Gump, a pack of dwarves, and a fairy to rescue Lily, retrieve the unicorn's horn, and set everything right. However, the Lord of Darkness, played by the delicious Tim Curry, plans to kill the remaining unicorn as a ritual sacrifice and take Lily as his mate to rule the universe in the realms of eternal darkness and evil. So, if the parallels with Zelda in terms of plot and quest wasn't enough to sell for you, all I can say about this legend of a film is that it really holds up to its name. Why is that? Well, in my opinion, this film I hold up to the most beautiful film I've ever seen in my entire life. And I only discovered it recently in the last few years, thanks to reviews online by the likes of Oliver Harper and Movie Bob. Yeah, sure, I've seen little bits of it here and there, most notably images of Darkness himself, which more or less looked like a rock album than a movie. But the reviews online really got my curiosity going, and given I'm a fan of fantasy and 80s fantasy movies in general, I finally grabbed a copy and watched it, and I was blown away by its visual storytelling. As much as I love Ridley Scott's films from Gladiator, Robin Hood, among several others, this film I can now consider his greatest work, as not only an original concept, but as a masterpiece in filmmaking and production design, and easily becoming over time one of my favorite films in general. And for a film that I've only seen recently, that's a rare thing to happen like that. Most of my favorite films take time and more viewings to enjoy. However, the more times I watch this film, whether it be the director's cut or the American cut, the more I fall in love with it. While the story is simple, small, and at times a little dull, I'm not gonna lie, the visual experience alone is worth the price of admission 1,000-fold. But with such great looks, we need to chat about the characters, which thankfully are a small cast. Jack is easily a great classic hero filled with spirit, optimism, hope, and emotions that really pay off, and for one of his first films, Tom Cruise nails it out of the park. Remember, this was before Top Gun, Mission Impossible, and... well, that, and he wasn't as famous as he is now. Yeah, he got a good gig prior with Risky Business, but as much as people praise him for his 50-year-old stunt work as you see now, not many look at this film as one of his best, and to be fair, he does his own share of stunts in this movie that would lead him to the daredevil as we see now. Aside from the backflips that are clearly a stunt double in some cases.
Don't you know me, boy?
Having only noticed her work recently thanks to this film, Mia Sara does a great job as Princess Lily. In fact, this was her first film. She's curious, bright, and independent despite needing to be rescued, and could hold her own against the forces of darkness. Mia had to do a lot of scenes with darkness, which the actor who we'll get to in a minute can outact anyone. But she manages to hold her own, not to mention she has a great singing voice.
Like a child feels watching a rainbow, like a bird feels the first time it flies.
I'm starting to enjoy a lot of her talents as of late, and she's a pretty impressive actress, honestly. The other characters on both the sides of good and evil are a lot of fun as well. Gump, played by David Bennett, is a mysterious but youthful adventurer, but can surprisingly hold a lot of authority and intimidation. His introduction is really eerie, and when he challenges Jack to a riddle to judge his life or death, it comes off as pretty serious, even with all those bubbles flying around.
Fucking bubbles!
Plus, I love how he basically becomes the angry German kid after Jack solves the riddle, which is downright hilarious. And aside from being a good archer, the character is deep down a good guy, and is an intelligent elf to have on a quest.
The goblins must have taken her.
We follow their tracks in the snow.
The dwarves, played by Billy Bartley and Cork Hubbard, are more so the comic relief as they are in any fantasy series, and the makeup is honestly quite good on them, as well as their dialogue, especially from Brontom, who comes off more as a leprechaun than a dwarf. Hey, maybe he was Warwick Davis's inspiration to play Leprechaun. Though to be fair, Brown Tom is the better dwarf, reminding me a lot of something like Tom Bombadil in The Lord of the Rings with a bit of Monty Python thrown in.
Message for you, son.
The fairy Una, played by Annabelle Layton, is sweet at times, but comes off as a little vicious. They obviously took inspiration from Peter Pan with Tinkerbell. However, with the Zelda parallels, it's obvious this is a precursor to the Navi, even down to the voice. No. You listen. As far as our villainous minions, the goblins are a lot of fun to watch. Blix, played by Alice Playton, is a chilling but loathsome creature, and the makeup apparently was inspired by Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones, which is definitely noticeable. Well, thank goodness there wasn't a Jack Nicholson-themed goblin, because I think Blix would have had something to say about that.
I have to go home now, Jack. No, I really do. It's fucking over. Where are you running, you pussy? Get back here.
Never spoke old Toby with a goblin Chester.
I get the point, Lord.
Alice also redubbed all of Gump's dialogue due to the fact that David's original voice sounded too German. Huh, I guess my angry German kid joke stands corrected. I even enjoy how the majority of Blick's dialogue is told in poetic rhymes.
Black as midnight, black as pitch, blacker than the foulest witch. Magic horn is mine, and worship goblins as divine. Mortal world turn to ice. Here be goblin paradise.
You really want me to play it? You sure? Because I wouldn't be able to resist if I could play it. Okay, fuck it, I'll play it.
Black as midnight, black as pitch, blacker than the foulest witch. Maybe innocent, maybe sweet, ain't half as nice as rotting meat. Enough, the Dark Lord, he don't like to wait. Best we use that lady as fine bait. This shot be just as sweet as pie. Tonight, the last unicorn will die. Magic horn is mine, all mine. Now all creatures will worship goblins as divine. Why not? I've got the power now. Lord of darkness, on your knees and bow. Higher, higher, burning fire, making music like a choir. The stallion is dead, dead as dreams. Goblins will rule the land while all fear with screams. Mortal was turned to ice. Here we be, goblin paradise. Out with the good and nice, not up here in goblin paradise. Watch your back here once or twice, or be dead in goblin paradise. Darkness will pay the price, back to us in goblin paradise.
Well, that was a huge sidetrack. Anyway, Pox is also a fun character, and his design reminds me a lot of Al Gore's Man-Bear Pig in South Park, making it a lot more funny character-wise.
Why not turn everything into garbage? A great towering mountain of slop. Wouldn't that be magic?
The other goblin, named Blunder in the movie, actually isn't a goblin at all. It's one of the dwarves undercover, played by Kieran Shaw, who actually went on to play Elijah Wood's scale double in The Lord of the Rings. And to be fair, he also has some pretty funny lines.
Have you no sense of humor? Adios, amigo!
However, the main attraction of the movie is none other than the dinner plate of awesomeness with Tim Curry as the Lord of Darkness. And in my opinion, this is hands down Tim Curry's best performance, passing all that would come before and after. Rocky Horror can suck it. Lon John Silver's a pussy. The hotel manager in Home Alone 2?
Have a lovely day.
Well, was already a pussy. Nigel Thornberry? Not even scary enough. And even with the might of Pennywise the Dancing Clown, ain't worth McShit compared to the Lord of Darkness. I was completely blown away by his stature, charm, intimidation, and outstanding makeup and creature design. For most of the film, he only makes brief appearances here in shadows, but by the third act, he consumes the entire picture with darkness. Look at Mia Sarah in their first scene together.
Does the gown not please you?
No.
I've found my true mate. And you know it.
Never.
We are already one.
That's not acting in her face, folks. I'm convinced that she was that terrified of him both visually and the fact that she can't outact him. It's evil at its finest forms. In fact, this could easily be one of my favorite villains in all media next to the likes of Naraku and Joffrey. Not to mention, Tim's dialogue is exquisitely delicious.
The dreams of youth are the regrets of maturity.
Though to be fair, he can be a tad bit goofy in some areas. Although to be fair, I do love this line.
What have we here? A little boy.
Okay, can we put him in that meme, please? What have we here? I'm fast as fuck, boy. Tim is that good in this as the purest of all evil. The makeup, the horns that Tim had to work with really paid off, and I can't imagine the amount of clustered torment the guy had to go through in that thing. Easily creating one of Universal's greatest movie monsters of all time. Hell, I'm surprised they haven't made a Halloween Horror Nights maze out of this movie. Seriously, it's perfect for the theme parks. Have the maze start with an enchanted forest, then move your way into Darkness's lair, and end it with a giant animatronic Tim Curry with the soundtrack by Tangerine Dream. The possibilities on that front are endless!
You know, I thought if you were the devil, I would pay to go to hell. I really would, because you...
And yeah, my favorite studio, Universal, obviously worked on this masterpiece. Although surprisingly enough, in other countries, it was actually released by 20th Century Fox. Oh god, I hope Disney doesn't own this one too.
Do I own that? No, not yet, sir.
At the time, Ridley Scott was riding on the success of his recent sci-fi film Blade Runner, after having two major films in that genre along with Alien, as well as doing pre-production on the film Dune, which ended up being directed by David Lynch. He ended up being frustrated with the production and ended up going back to a fairy tale story he had thought of since the days of his work on The Duelist. Being introduced to William Hotzberg, an author who wrote short stories and fairy tales on his spare time for fun, and the two collaborated in creating a screenplay of an original concept about unicorns and a villain known as Darkness. Inspired by the likes of the Brothers Grimm, classic Walt Disney animated films, the original title of the film was called Legend of Darkness. However, the script ended up being too big for the studios to pitch to due to the cost of location, so the story was scaled down, and at the time Ridley had the idea to shoot in a real forest known as Yosemite National Park in California. But it was difficult to get the right lighting in through the trees, so they decided to build the sets indoors in London at the iconic 007 soundstage, and boy did it pay off. Despite it being used for the majority of the James Bond movies, the 007 soundstage has quite a history, being the home of many sets for films like Superman, Batman, Harry Potter, and way too many other films to count. And it's mostly due to the large size, for which Legend uses to its limits. The sets are easily some of the finest in cinema. The enchanted forest was all built in the stage, and everything was brought from the outside. While the majority of the trees were made from plaster and styrofoam, there was real plants, foliage, as well as animals roaming around the sets. With birds, rabbits, and foxes just living there, it made the sets so much more realistic to the film's favor. In fact, the entire film was shot indoors on set. There is not one real outdoor location throughout this entire film. And goddamn is that an achievement. In fact, I haven't seen sets this big and massive in detail since the likes of Hook. However, it did cause problems when filming the actors during the stage with the mics, so a lot of the movie had to be dubbed, which isn't really that bad for the film, but is easily noticeable. Especially the scene where Lily is pleading to Brontom to retreat away from the goblins.
Darkness has sent the goblins back for the mayor. It's not safe to stay here. You'll have to hurry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Please, try to make things right.
Okay.
However, while I love the forest and the swamps where you can see Artax drowning in the background, Darkness's lair is filled with fire, brimstone, castle walls, and so many treasures, trinkets, and hordes of weapons.
We found them in a troll hoard on the Great East Road, shortly before we were ambushed by orcs.
It's a great looking set, and if I was scurrying around that lair, I'd be gathering and using weapons there like crazy, which is convenient for a lot of the scenes with our heroes in this movie. It's just fantastic production design, all thanks to its designer Ashdene Gordon and director of photography Alex Thompson, who filmed the likes of Excalibur and Labyrinth prior and after. A damn good cameraman in the fantasy genre.
Tra-la-la.
I mean, with sets like that, it would be great to just keep them in there as a theme park. I mean, it's not like there was so much crammed in that there was a hazard and the set caught on fire. This movie burnt down the 007 soundstage? Fuck! Yeah, unfortunately once filming wrapped on the forest sets, it caught fire due to a gas leak that allowed the fire effects in the film, and the 007 stage unfortunately burnt down. For Ridley Scott and the crew, this was not only devastating, but all were extremely guilt-driven at the fact that they destroyed one of the most famous sound stages in film history. Thankfully, the stage was eventually rebuilt, and the first film appropriately to shoot there was Roger Moore's final James Bond film, A View to Kill. And while the sets are a massive achievement in production design, we gotta talk about the amazing makeup effects by legendary monster artist Rob Bottin, who Ridley was very impressed with his gory graphic effects in John Carpenter's remake of The Thing. He hired him on to design the makeup and creature effects for the dwarves, goblins, and the Lord of Darkness. While the dwarf makeup is amazing for classic 80s fantasy dwarves, the Lord of Darkness is definitely one of the best makeup achievements in cinema. When Tim Curry was offered the role, he was very concerned of how much makeup would cover his face to the point of adding demonic contact lens. But once he saw himself in the mirror, he was suddenly taken into the role completely, being very impressed. Tim not only had to act in heavy makeup and horns, but also on stilts with goat feet and ended up being almost 13 feet tall. Holy goddamn, if that's not Satan incarnate, I don't know what is. In fact, out of all the visual incarnations of the devil, this is easily the best I've ever seen.
Always a pleasure.
However, aside from Darkness, I shouldn't forget the terrifying swamp creature Meg Mucklebones, played by Star Trek Voyager star Robert Picardo, who is easily as terrifying as Darkness. This scene alone is one of my favorites in the movie, with Meg's witch-like wriggling and Tom Cruise using his charm to slay the beast. It's honestly a great scene, and Robert really gave a lot to it, diving in and out of water constantly between takes.
Think we fair? Do you, Jack?
With its fairy tale themes inspired by Peter Pan and Snow White, it even has a bit of a Beauty and the Beast motif, as the devil himself has a lust for a mortal woman, and Tim really shows some respect and sense of mental torture and tragedy here, especially with Lily's seductive teases towards him. Also in this scene at the end, I'm pretty sure Tim nutted here. Yep. Total Beauty and the Beast thematics right there. And with all the sets and look to the damn thing, it kind of reminds me of something Disney would have done. Tale as old as time. Angel meets devil. Don't touch that unicorn. Avoid the pony porn, or be sent to hell. Don't go down that well, fellas, it's awful. Mia and Tim Curry, dancing all with glee. Tim is all prepared, Mia's too damn scared. Shoo that set, Curry. Lily's all like, while darkness goes ever as before, and with not much more, Ridley bailed on Alien 4. Seriously, you made Covenant instead? Why? Dwarves are fucking lit. One looks like Lucky.
They are after me, Lucky Charm.
Gump's got creepy eyes. Kids are drunk on wines, unlike the birds that flee because the set burnt down. Tom Cruise is our Link. The dubbing's out of sync, but who gives a shit? This film's a visual hit. Thank you, Sir Ridley. But this movie flopped with one memorable top. That was Tim Curry. Yeah, bet you didn't know this review was a musical. Anyway, the film also includes a few religious themes, most notably Adam and Eve with Lily's immortal soul being led to hell to be seduced by the devil. So for any of those of faith, it's a decent film to stick on for the family. I know this movie has a lot of scary images for children, but this is up there with The Neverending Story with a perfect balance of horror and family entertainment. Now when it comes to a dark tone and thematic elements, this movie is epic as fuck for the 80s fantasy genre. but because it was made in the 80s, less can be said about the editing and music. While that's an odd reason for some flaws, it doesn't take away from the talents involved, but I'm more so talking about the different cuts of the film and the soundtracks that go with it. Much like most Ridley Scott films, there's a bajillion cuts of his films, and Legend is no exception. In total, there are 4 cuts of the film, with only 3 available, with the 4th being for a preview screening in mid-1985, in which Ridley could hear people snickering and could smell pot. Which, like most cuts of his work, Ridley's films definitely attract stoners.
Try a little old Toby. It'll help settle your nerves.
Because of this screening, Ridley chopped a lot down, which leaves us with the 3 cuts publicly available. The first 2 being the UK and director's cuts, both of which being my personal favorite versions, and with it comes an orchestral score by the legendary Jerry Goldsmith, whose resume includes Star Trek, First Knight, and The Mummy. His score delivers not only a majestic fairy tale score, but also romance, adventure, and wonder. And while it's not my favorite score of Jerry's work, it's still pretty damn impressive.
Then 'tis your death song I'll be playing.
However, I have mixed feelings more so for the American cut of Legend. This version is really conflicting for me. On the one hand, it is a shorter cut, but in some instances it's kinda hard to watch compared to the director's cut due to several changes in character introductions, trimming over 30 minutes out losing a ton of plot points and character development. But I might be insane for saying this, has the better score.
No, you lie.
Now that doesn't take away from the amazing talents of Jerry's work, but the American Cut's score is much more memorable to listen to, created by the talented band Tangerine Dream. The reason for this music change, I believe, was less Ridley Scott and more of a studio decision by Universal to make the film appeal much more to the teenage audience of the 80s. Seriously, I can only imagine what the first recording sessions were like. Okay, Universal, you called us up to reschool the film? That's right, kiddies. We want you to make this picture more appealing to the tweenie crowd since the UK had too many pot smokers, which is bad for our PR, so we want to lighten the mood a bit. And that's how Tommy said you guys were the best. Okay, is there any specific sound you want? Well, that never-ending tale was it made billions at the box office, so synthesizers are the way to go in music. We might even add a few pop songs to the album, see? Okay. You sure that's necessary? I mean, Jerry's score took a lot of effort to put together and... who needs the effort when we got one of the singers from the Eagles? I suppose not. But I'm on the Warrior. Get to work, Clementine Nightmares. We gotta fly this thing out faster than Frodo flying to Mount Doom. Yeah, due to the Neverending Story success a few years prior using 80 synthesizers for music, the same applied to Legend among other fantasy films like Labyrinth. The studio also included pop songs and artists to help sell the movie, including trailers and TV spots narrated by Percy Rodriguez, who was a go-to for Universal after the success of Jaws in 1975.
Tom Cruise in Ridley Scott's Legend, rated PG.
None of man's fantasies of evil can compare with the reality of Jaws.
The songs included were Is Your Love Strong Enough by Brian Ferry and the band Yes, which plays during the end credits. While a rocking tune and also used in the American trailers, it seemed a little outdated compared to the rest of the soundtrack and honestly not my favorite in the film. However, a song that really makes the film its own is Loved by the Sun, performed by Tangerine Dream and John Anderson, famous for the band The Warriors. Appropriate here for sure. While Tangerine Dream's score is incredible on its own, this song makes the band's music on par, if not superior to Goldman's score, creating a sense of beauty with its dreamlike visuals and magic of a mystical quest of love, providing the lyric "Legends can be now and forever" that sums up the film entirely, given it is a true sense of eternity and matches the poems that were cut from the UK version. If I could see the best of both worlds with a full uncut version combining both versions of Goldman's poems and Tangerine Dream's soundtrack, it could be a glorious experience. Both soundtracks are easily available and are definitely worth a listen, also making for a great good night's sleep. But back to the flaws in the editing. While the UK director's cut is my personal favorite, some might see it as a little slow in pace for a 2-hour picture, and some have been known to fall asleep prior to its highlights with darkness. But honestly, I don't think of it as a bad thing. Ridley's intention was to create his own fantasy fairy tale, and what are fairy tales better at than a good bedtime story, which for me is a great concept for a film. As kids, our parents or older relationships would always pick up a good book or tell the tale of adventures in an imaginative world, and for that theme to be the basis of the film itself is honestly quite fascinating and works brilliantly here. Hell, if I'm not listening to relaxation music or ASMRs, don't ask, I'll stick a movie like Legend on to help me fall asleep. It's a good tranquilizer, honestly. But for anyone who cares to see the film in its entirety, maybe the American cut is for you. But I'd advise being prepared for a mess due to the half-hour cut and alternate scenes that dumb down the movie a little. For example, the biggest issue is darkness being revealed at the beginning of the movie! Why? What a way to ruin such a great surprise. I mean, yeah, you've got some extra servings of curry, that's always welcome, but why show such great imagery so early? And why is he blue? He looked like he stepped off the final boss in a neon laser tag arena.
Let this serve to remind you.
On top of that, all of Lily's songs were removed from the American cut, which is a shame since, again, Mia Sara is a fantastic singer here.
As his lips met her breath, he went sweetly to death. At the roots of the bluebells is where he's led.
I think if they kept her singing in the American cut, it would have been a happy balance for both Tangerine Dream and Jerry Goldsmith. However, if there's one thing I thought was a welcome change, surprisingly enough, in the American cut, was the ending, which gives us much more of a happy ending and a little tease. The UK ending has a very Princess Bride ending, with Jack promising to see Lily tomorrow, much like Grandpa Peter Falk promising to read the book to Fred Savage again.
Maybe you could come over and read it again to me tomorrow.
As you wish.
Can I come tomorrow?
Of course. I'll be here.
But what makes the American ending so much more rewarding to see is the unicorn's horn return to the stallion, which was the main theme of the quest, whereas the UK version had dropped it entirely, and mixed the John Anderson song with a faded shot of Darkness laughing in the final scene, and makes for a much more powerful ending. And I like the fact that Darkness in some ways is still alive, as the battle of good versus evil is an eternal struggle to bring balance to the world. He even states that in his final scene.
What is light without dark? I am a part of you all. We are brothers, eternal.
It's honestly quite haunting and provides the film with much more of a circle story that allows for repeated viewings. Now, the last things I want to discuss about the film are certain comparisons to a small little gold cartridge. Yeah, it's a given that this movie is, like I said before, a Legend of Zelda movie. But unlike the fans after that April Fool's fan trailer and the petition for a Game of Thrones or Castlevania-esque Netflix series, Zelda, believe it or not, was created in 1986, nearly months after the film's release. And rumors for years suggested that Shigeru Miyamoto based the stories of Zelda, Link, and the world of Hyrule on Ridley Scott's film, and it's hard not to see that. Especially in later games, striking much more of a resemblance to Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. We have a forest-dwelling hero, a mystical MacGuffin, a princess dedicated to said MacGuffin, who is captured by a demon dark lord in a tower, an eternal world of darkness. Our hero is followed by a glowing fairy with a high-pitched voice, obtains a sword and shield, mummies, a time-traveling ending, and a final boss battle for the ages. All the signs are honestly there that Miyamoto is and always has been a fan of Scott's work. I mean, look at Metroid even, totally based on Alien. While this hasn't been confirmed or denied by Nintendo, it's been a fan, well, legend that Ridley's films were pretty much the Adam and Eve origin of one of the most popular video games of all time, and if that's the case, there's so much more influence to the film than I thought there was. And yeah, that pretty much sums the film up. It's inspirational even to me as a young filmmaker, who's only loved the film recently and continues to see so much more with every viewing. And for that, Legend is an outstanding, high-ranking legend that I couldn't recommend higher enough. It's fucking awesome! Overall, this movie is a sheer gift to me. I've seen my fair share of beautiful films, but Legend has topped every one of them. Hell, in terms of visuals, it tops even the might of King Kong himself. Legend may not be my #1 favorite film, but it's definitely in my top 10. The cast is small but impressive, the sets are beyond spectacular, the music is full of 80s tranquility, the makeup is godlike and worth so much praise, the action, while sporadic, is as epic as Lord of the Rings, Tim Curry fires off his best role as one of the greatest villains of all time, and while inspiring a great video game franchise, its influence for me will stay forever as the most visually beautiful film I have ever seen in my life, and I doubt any will come close before or after. I can't praise the movie enough, and it's a sin that it's underrated and forgotten about. And it's worth a viewing by everyone at the highest ranking of a 10 out of 10. It's an angel from heaven of a film, and a visual experience that you'll never forget. And after 35 years and beyond, it truly deserves the title of Legend. Whew! What a movie! And I love talking about it with you guys. Normally I'd leave a link to purchase the film without mention, but with Legend, I'd highly recommend buying it in the very highest regards. It's also pretty damn cheap on Amazon and is worth every cent in value. Probably even higher. Now I know some people might have different opinions, but of course I want to hear what your thoughts are about Legend. Do you think it's an 80s masterpiece full of visual imagery, or do you think it lacks on story? Let me know in the comment section below, and maybe I've piqued your interest in taking a look at this forgotten 80s gem. So until the next video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. This is BigJackFilms signing off, saying, Legends live forever.
Why do you seek to still run, boy? Your world, your life, everything you know, love, and live for is done by my hand. Why fight for that which no longer exists? And yet you stay silent, still wishing to defy me. No matter if you die, I will reign supreme and continue my path of never-ending darkness. Is it living that drives you? A chance to see what's next? I can make such a wish come true. Kneel, boy. Join me and become my disciple. Let darkness consume you and leave this destroyed life. I can end your pain and remove those you still fight for that keep your pointless existence alive. When I pass into shadows, my powers will pass to you. And you can rule this land with whatever you desire. This power I've obtained even overthrows the gods of worlds. It is a greater life in of itself. And it can all be yours, my boy. Yes, take my hand, serve me, learn from me. Let us become one with power and we will become eternal. Please, take me. Take me. Take me! hatred, no love for yourself. I curse you. I curse your name and soul and all who comes after. Light and darkness, a battle that will never end. This is just the first page of all stories and legends to come, boy. If you wish to fight for a dying universe, then you shall die with it.
Let it be death. It's the road to the next great adventure.
We shall meet again, boy! In more ways than one! In another time! In another life!
Lily, can you hear me? I don't know if you can, but I want you to know that I tried. I tried to save our world, but I failed you.
Jack, you did well, Jack. You can rest now. Rest in an eternal sleep with those you love who have passed. Your light is a powerful element. Let us take it from your pain. Let it pass on to the next. Rest, Jack. Rest.